it's because they can, and probably because they want the fame. I mean, they want to be noticed.
Listen, we got to get to George because he's online. George, how are you doing this morning?
Hey, Gareth and Simpiwe, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Simpiwe and I are sipping tea with Kelly Kumalo this morning, so we're good. What's happening, George?
I was met, and I'm sipping coffee too.
Okay, good man. Are you very particular about what coffee you drink, or because we've had this conversation now for the last 2 weeks, we're busy sorting out some stuff around the studio, and one of the things is a coffee machine. Are we very particular, George?
Particular. Very particular about my coffee. I like coffee beans from Guatemala.
Oh, Guatemala, very nice. Okay, where do you buy them? Do you buy those ones with a flag on them?
No, the ones with a flag on them, yes. The Guatemala you can find in that one with a flag on it. Checkers sells the Guatemalan coffee as well.
Yes, I've got that.
But I buy my beans from a little boutique coffee shop roaster in the south of Joburg called Royal Coffees.
Okay, you are way fancier than me. Sorry, I just get mine at the supermarket. But I thought I was in your league.
Same price. Same price. I promise you.
Well, it sounds way more fancy. So what's happening? What have you got to tell us this morning? I see that the speed cameras are back up and running in Gauteng, right? That's a big story.
Well, yeah, speed cameras are back up and running. So, slow down. Don't go over 160 kilometers an hour. Don't go over 120 kilometers an hour because you're going to get fined, number one. Number two, if you go too fast, I've seen them issue years ago. I've seen issue fines over 10,000 Rand for speeding.
That's hectic. And of course, over 160, they just arrest you. There's no talking about it.
Yeah, it's arrest material. So don't go there.
Okay. But of course, when I read the story earlier this morning, it seems to me that they're more excited about this because they can make some money. They can put some money in the coffers again. That's why they're excited, not because they want
revenue comes back, I suppose.
Right. Okay.
So people that do weird and wonderful things. There's this guy obviously in the US of A, who decided to build an upside down Chevy pickup.
Holy shit. What? Why?
I asked the same question. Why? Just because he can.
So are those their heads sticking out there? Oh, there's a windscreen and everything. Oh my God. So their tires under what should be the top of the car. And let me explain this to people who are listening, not watching. The wheels are on the top. And in between the two front wheels, underneath the car, of course it's the wrong way round, is a windscreen.
Sure. Okay.
I'm
getting a headache looking at this.
The guy's sitting. This must be the most. Listen, if you drive drunk and this guy drives past you, you're going to be like, pull over to the side. I'm going to call somebody. There's no way I can get home. I just saw that fucking car was upside down. Right, George?
Absolutely. Either you're going to see it's an accident or think it's an accident, or you're going to think you've seriously your drink's been spiked. Why people do that, I don't know, but I suppose it's because they can, and probably because they want the fame. I mean, they want to be noticed.
Okay. Well, that's weird. That is the weirdest car I've seen in a long time, and you've shown us some pretty weird cars on this show.
And then Formula One is happening next month, the first race of the Formula One season. Now, for those who are into Formula One, I think it's going to be quite a hot race in terms of the three top contenders. Really, it's not going to be a runaway race by any one, I don't think. But what's interesting is after the movie debuted on Formula One. They decided to fit what's called visor cams to the heads of the Formula One drivers to give viewers who watch Formula One a perspective as if they're in the car themselves.
Ooh.
That's these poor guys. Everything is already being watched. Now we sit literally inside their cameras, inside their heads with them. You see things the way they see them. I think it might be really amazing, but it might also be terrifying because When you have that perspective and you see the speed from their point of view, it's terrifying.
Well, I mean, if you just look at or watch the race through one of these visor cams, you realize how quickly these guys have to make decisions, and how quickly the corner comes up on them, and how fast they have to react to other cars around them. When you're doing 300 kilometers an hour and there's 2-3 other cars around you, it's split-second decisions. It's not a case of, oh, should I go here? Should I turn left? Should I use my indicator? These are really split-second decisions that probably happen in the amygdala rather than the cortex.
Yeah, instinct. It's got to be, because otherwise you'd be dead.
Otherwise, you'd be absolutely dead. So besides that, Gareth, what you will hear on the AutoTrader podcast on Monday is our brand new 2022 AutoTrader industry report is going to be launched, or is launched, should I say, already. But what you'll hear about that on the podcast on Monday. And there's some interesting facts in this particular report. Besides user search or visits growing to AutoTrader's platform, there's a few trends that seem to be emerging, and we've categorized them into 3 particular buckets. The first trend is this phenomenon that's been going around for a long time called digital retailing. Where different companies are creating software for users to try and digitize the car buying journey as much as possible. And I saw this when I went to NADA 2 weeks ago. There's a lot of proliferation of digital retailing, which is almost like, you can think about it, Take-A-Lot is an example of a company that you click and it gets delivered. Now, a car's not like that. But a lot of companies are trying
you want to try. It's funny. We were talking about this the other day with the CEO of Mercedes, who I know you've interviewed in your autobiography series that you're doing. And we spoke to him and to Phil from DeWitt Motors about there's always going to be a group of people who want to get into the car and test drive it. And there's always going to be a group of people who are happy to just click and buy, even with something as expensive as a car, because they already know what they want. And, if it's a reputable dealer, a good situation, some people are happy to just, yes, I'll click on that. Let me get it. And you guys trade in cars every day, thousands of cars. So you see it fly like this. And that wouldn't happen if people didn't trust the system.
Exactly. But you touched on an important point there. A car and a house for that matter, a house probably more so. A car is such a big ticket item that the fulfillment will always happen inside a dealership. There are a lot of companies who think that they can take their digital retailing platforms to a point where you can click and then the car gets delivered. Carvana is an example of that in the US, and they're not doing so well right now. So I don't think there's a world where us as human beings or consumers wouldn't want to at least see that car once physically before we sign on the dotted line. So all of the digital retailing platforms that are doing a good job digitize the process until that fulfillment point. And only at that fulfillment point does the digital retailing fade into the background, because it's a big ticket item. You don't want to buy the thing sight unseen.
No, for sure. No, certainly. I think that's exactly right. But it's always going to be a little bit of both. You want the convenience, and I've seen some of these, the websites at these dealers or on the manufacturer's sites too. You can literally, you could click and change the color of, the mags on the car, and you could see what it would look like. In some ways, you could say, oh, well, this is even better than going to the showroom, because you're going to see, if you're buying brand new, you'll see exactly what it's going to look like, with all the bells and whistles, and you can get that immediate quote. And for some people, they want that instant stuff.
Yeah, that's a good example of digital retailing that doesn't fulfill the transaction. You're doing all of the digital retailing stuff until the point where you say, okay, I want that car. So you order it, but you've still got to go test drive the car. There's some physical stuff that you do. The second trend that we're seeing is a trend of mobility as a service. Now, if you think about mobility as a service, think about not owning a car, driving it rather than owning it, or driving in it rather than owning it. So mobility as a service. There's about a 30% growth in global numbers for mobility as a service, and this is renting a car or using ride-hailing services. There's 30% growth in this category, which tells us something about how the consumer is thinking. They don't necessarily want to get themselves into these long-term deals of 6 years and taking the depreciation.
All right, what else you got for us?
And then very finally, the third trend is obviously the shift towards EVs and hybrids, which I don't think is going to go away anytime soon. There were 500 battery electric cars sold last year in South Africa versus 212 in the year before that. So there's this doubling effect of new energy vehicles. But, if you want to go and read the whole report, which looks like that, you can go to reports.autotrader.co.za and go and download it for free for yourself.
That's awesome, George. I think a lot of people will be interested in what's in that report. It's always a useful thing to look through. And it also gives you a little bit of a barometer on the South African economy,
Exactly.
People use car sales as one of the ways to figure out whether an economy is growing, shrinking, or doing okay, doing not so well, all of that stuff. It's all at reports.autotrader.co.za. Excellent. Thank you very much, George. Have an awesome weekend. And Simpiwe, thank you very much. Big thank you to Kelly Kumalo, to Ben, to Ryan, and especially to you for being with us today. We will see you on Monday at 6 a.m. Be good, everybody. Ciao. Bye-bye.